What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with the first band I ever saw in Sweden. We are here with Tobias of Nestor. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great. It's my pleasure. It's great being here.
Yeah, of course, man. It's awesome to have you here. So, it's been a great couple of years for Nestor. We got Kids in a Ghost Town out now, the debut full-length album, and we've heard some great things coming on after that. So basically, the first question I want to ask is, how's everything been going in the Nestor camp lately? Because you guys have been around for a long time. We finally got the debut album, and it looks like we're going to be hearing a lot more, right?
Yeah. No, it's all good in the Nestor camp. We done, I think we've done 23 or 24 shows since May. So we've been we've really gotten to know each other again, so to speak. No, but it's been great. It's been great. We had an amazing summer, great shows, and great audiences, and so it's all good. But now we did the last show for the summer 2 weeks ago in Hamburg, and now we have 6 weeks off. So I've started just to work on new songs and all that stuff. But all good.
Is Kids in a Ghost Town a good representation of the direction Nestor's going to go into the future? Or being that this was the debut album, do you feel like there's still a little bit more experimentation to be done and there's a lot more to be discovered with Nestor?
There's definitely more to discover, but with that said, it's a great reference as well. The thing is that we are so attached to the 80s as we started off as kids back in the 80s, like by the end of the 80s. So we're not gonna disappoint our fans with the next album. It's gonna still be like 80s sounding music, but of course we want to stretch our legs a little bit, so to speak. So there might be some experimental stuff in there as well, but still it's the costumes are 80s, the same as Kids in a Ghost Town.
Hell yeah. And being that you guys have been around since the 80s but are just releasing the album now, is what we're hearing on the albums from songs such as On the Run to Stone Cold Eyes to These Days to It Ain't Me, is these how all these songs were originally structured back in the 80s in a way, or did these songs maybe change a lot over a course of time?
No, there's no song that is written or constructed in the 80s. Everything is newly written since 2019. Oh. So these are all new songs. No oldies in there.
Oh, really?
But yeah, but of course the stories in the songs, or the lyrics are of course from those times, but not written from those times. But the stories is about us growing up in a small town kind of thing. But no, we wrote the songs. We started off in when the pandemic hit, so beginning of 2020 or late 2019.
That's really funny because I was born in '93, so I never experienced the '80s. But from all the stories I heard about the '80s, it always seemed like it was such a positive time, and it was always such a great time just in the world of rock and roll and everything like that. And then you guys start and release these albums during what I would say is probably some of the most depressing times that the world has ever faced. I found that pretty ironic, to be honest.
Yeah. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's so popular. It's like happy music in depressing times, so to speak. No, I don't know.
That should be the slogan. That should be the slogan for Nestor. Happy music.
That should be the slogan. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Great music for shit times.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yep. But obviously there is a lot of nostalgia that goes into your music and looking back towards the 80s. But has there ever been a time where maybe the future or the present was also influential for the band as well?
Yeah, the thing is, I think the mix between the past, as the plan was when we started talking about putting the band together, as we started '89, and we kept going for a couple of years, or actually we broke up the band '95 or went on a long pause, so to speak. Then when we started to make a new album, or actually make an album together again and get the band together, the idea was to go in a time machine back to '89 and make that album that we didn't have the skills or possibilities to do then, but now. So with that said, I think the inspiration, of course, is all these 80s bands and that era. But for me as a songwriter, I'm inspired by all kinds of music and a lot of music that I listen to nowadays. So I think it's a mix. Even though I love the 80s, but when you listen to quite a lot of stuff from the 80s, it doesn't sound that well. And it's you want to do it, don't get me wrong, but that you want that kind of production, but with a 2020 touch to it, basically. And I think we managed to get that.
Yeah, like an old school sound with a new school charm to it in a way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And also the 80s was such a diverse time for music as well. Like I definitely see references as well. Like, I could compare Nestor to a lot of 80s bands, but like when people like tell me, "Yeah, I want our band to pay tribute to the 80s." Like, to what? Thrash metal, glam metal, early industrial, like like there's so much that was happening in the 80s. You can
Yeah,
almost take inspiration from multiple sources.
yeah, no, definitely.
Yep.
It's yeah.
As a vocalist, and you mentioned like the lyrics are also like tributing to that time. Did you almost like consider like it almost seems like you were taking ideas of the 80s and almost would you consider Kids in a Ghost Town to almost be sort of conceptual since it's sort of paying tribute to that time as well?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Even though conceptual in that sense that it kind of reflects those years, maybe 2 or 3 years in my life or in our life. So kind of, yeah, it is conceptual. Even though I'm thinking, started working on a new album, and I'm really thinking this concept kind of thing now. So yeah, to answer your question, in a way, it's conceptual. Yeah, as everything had to be somehow attached or um, had some kind of reference in the 80s. Yeah.
Have you always needed to hear the music before you came up with lyrics, or did the lyrical ideas help maybe influence the direction of the song?
Both ways, I think. Sometimes I just one song on the album called Perfect 10 that was called, from the beginning, was called Eyes Like Demi Moore, which the lyrics is about. And that, when I got the lyrics, I kind of knew where the song was going, but when I really got into the lyrics, it took a different path, so to speak. So it goes both ways. Sometimes it's like you don't have the lyrics, you have some kind of melody or some kind of beat, and then you start to think about lyrics, and then you find some words that feels great, and then it ends up somewhere else. So yeah, it's a two-headed. Can you say that? Two-headed kind of.
Well, how many times have you started a song one way and the results were completely different in the end, right?
Quite a few times. Quite a few times, especially when you think like, yeah, this is a ballad, right? And then no, it's not. It's an up-tempo song, kind of. So quite a few times. Quite a few times.
Does the songwriting process ever start off with a preconceived idea? Let's make a ballad. Let's make something more
Yeah.
aggressive, or does it just like? Do you feel like you just kind of go into things sometimes without any sort of preconceived notion of what?
No, but I think you know, along the way when you're making an album, then in the beginning it's a little bit like that. You just start writing songs and you see what happens, you know. But then the further down the line, then you kind of, for me at least, I see it as this is as in the 80s there was an album, there was 12 songs, maybe 10 or 12 songs, and if you've written 2 or 3 or 4, you kind of realize that, okay, we need a shuffle version, we need a shuffle song, or we need a really up-tempo one, or we need a ballad. So in the beginning it's more like just being creative and writing songs, and then along the way you kind of decide that we need a ballad, so we're going to focus on writing a ballad. So
when it comes to singing like a very fast or aggressive song versus singing a ballad in a way, do you almost feel like it's a different expression of energy, or is there any method at all that kind of ties singing those two types of songs together?
No, but it's definitely two different way of singing. It's like if you sing, we have a song on the album called "It Ain't Me," which is the last song on the album, and it's really, in a way, depressing but romantic in the same. It's kind of, it ain't me. I know that there's something missing in your heart, but I'm sure it's not me. That kind of thing. So I sing that in a way that it feels right. And then we have a song called Fire Sign, which is more like Kickstart My Heart with Mötley, and of course it's a different expression. So even though I sound kind of the same, I guess, but now it's a totally different kind of approach to it, and different way of singing.
Yeah, I heard from a few rock bands that playing a slower song is sometimes more difficult or more pressure than playing like a real fast song, because it's like you're more exposed when you play a ballad, I feel.
Yeah, and also you play a ballad, there's you can really hear the vocals. You can, if you have like an up-tempo rock song, you can kind of hide behind the energy and everything. If you're a singer, when if it's a ballad and you're gonna sing these long high notes, you really are out there, so to speak. So that I agree on that one.
Yeah, I was interviewing Buck Cherry like almost 4 years ago, and they were telling me like, a fast song, it's skipping along so quick. As long as if you keep up, you're good. But if you're playing a slow song and you slightly botch a note, your ass is hanging in the wind.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
That's true.
And everybody knows you're the one that messed up too. If you're
Yeah, but that is true. That is true. We've been lucky so far that we haven't really kind of messed up that bad. But still, especially if it's playing festivals, sometimes it could be stressful. You don't have that much sound check. It might be a line check. And for example, we have a song called Tomorrow, which is a duet. And sometimes at one place we played, and I didn't have any keyboards, and the song is based on keyboards, and I was like, how am I supposed to sing if I don't have anything to sing to? That makes it a bit tricky, but that only happened once. So
yeah. Well, when I saw you guys, I heard you all the way from my hotel, and you guys sounded fantastic. So
oh, thanks, man. Thanks,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
That was great.
that was still a fantastic weekend. I still can't stop thinking about that particular show.
The weather was great, as I recall, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it was good. And
Yeah, it was beautiful out. I forgot the name of the festival, and it's gonna bother me so much now. But
no,
like
this festival was the Bandit Rock Festival. It's like, yeah,
Bandit, yeah,
it's,
Bandit Rock
Bandit.
Festival. Yep.
It's like the biggest rock radio station that had that kind of festival thing. So
Yeah, was it also intended to kind of be like a pregame for Rolling Stones that weekend because it almost seemed like it was
What?
perfect.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was, because they decided, I think, even before, or at the same time. I don't know. It might be, it's because I remember when they asked us if we wanted to play, it was super long ago. I think it was in the pandemic times, and then they kind of postponed it a few times, but I'm not sure. But if it worked like a warm up, it would. That was great.
Yeah, and it was just incredible too. Like I was there with my father, and he thought he was watching you guys and saw everybody wearing Def Leppard and Motley Crue shirts, and my dad thought he was like having like an old man flashback in a way from when he was in the '80s. He was
Great
like
stuff.
he was like,
Yeah,
where
that's
am I? But yeah. When it comes to your songwriting process, do you prefer to be alone when it comes to writing lyrics or tracking vocals or recording vocals, or do you prefer, because the music is very organic and really does have a great band vibe behind it, you prefer to come up with ideas when you're in the company of your bandmates?
No, I rather do it myself. As I'm doing main part or 90% of the songwriting. Johnny, the guitarist, is a part of the songwriting as well. But I normally do in my home studio. I do demos, and then I send it over to them, and they can have a listen. And then we do, if we have the possibility, we record the stuff together. I'm always a part of it as I'm producing the album as well. But when it comes to vocals, I always do it myself. I have this other guy that works with me a bit, and I send it over to him, and he has a listen, and he's like, "Yeah, you could change that, and you could do this." But so normally I just send the guys, "This is the final, this is the finished version. What do you think?" And if they have any, suggestions or opinions about changing anything, we do that. But normally it's like, "Yeah, it's great. Let's keep it like that."
I guess regardless of what the mood or type of music you're playing, whether it is like, 80s rock or depressive suicidal black metal, it seems like isolation is always like the best method of creativity.
Yeah. I love it. I could sit forever on my own, just, working on these riffs or melodies or harmonies. And yeah, I enjoy that.
How do you know when you're sort of finished with a song, though? Because I feel like the music is so well composed, and you have like it's almost epic in a way. Like even though I see the '80s references to it, it has like an epic vibe behind it to the point where like it almost is like soundtrack-y in a way. Like I feel like it could be the soundtrack to a epic movie or a game or something like that. How do you know when you're finished and you're done laying things on top of each other?
I think, I'm not sure there was someone saying it. I think it was someone who worked on the Pixar movies. He said like, we never finished. We just abandon projects.
Yeah.
And we're going to abandon it. And that's the kind of feeling I have sometimes. I feel like, yeah, I could change that. I can do that. But then you have to trust the guys in the band as well as the people around us to say like, no, it's great, But in that regards, I think when I do vocals and normally and the recordings in general, I tend to record it and leave it for a day or two, go back to it, revisit it, and then I feel it. Then I can feel like, okay, now we're getting there, you know. So to answer your question, I think as long as, for me at least, as long as I have some time with a song, at least a week, then I can be a bit clear-minded when it comes to these decisions. Because then sometimes it's like, if you leave it for a day and you come back and you like it, and you go like almost get goosebumps, like okay, I'm done basically. But then again, it's like okay, but I should just fix these things, and then sometimes some of the guys just say like, you're done now.
Do you feel like the music that you are paying homage to the 1980s to, do you feel like the music has different meaning or different context now as opposed to when it did back then? Do you almost feel like a different emotion or a different form of expression expressing the sound now than back then?
80s, like late 80s, I was so kind of consumed or a part of the scene, so I couldn't really look at it as I do now. Even though it sounds a bit weird, but I can look at that kind of genre in the 80s from a side in a way and pick the cherries kind of a thing. Like I like that, and this is the reason why I like that. That was super hard, of course, when I was, a teenager in the middle of everything. So that's the biggest difference, I think, and try to keep the perspectives.
Yeah. Do you feel like maybe with every song that you make, or not even just a song that Nestor writes, but any song that you were listening to back then, it is like a snapshot of who you are at that particular time? Or do you think that maybe music could also evolve over time?
Now that it's definitely like that. I try to think exactly as you describe it. I try to write the songs as a snapshot out of these years. Okay, who was that guy? Who was that 17-year-old me? What did he think about? What was important for him? And try to get into my own mind when I was 17 writing the songs. Like I really see this. I can't. What was the question? You said like if it is like a snapshot out of
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
years,
Or
or
can it evolve over time in a way?
yeah. No, but it's basically I try to. I think if you want to keep it true in that sense that you really want to tell the story, I think I need to tell the story with my 17-year-old me kind of a thing. Even though, of course, I'm a grown up now, and I can see that some parts that I believed was right or wrong or whatever isn't that. But I still want to go into that mind and kind of mentally visualize. Okay, what posters did I have on my wall? Yeah, it was Samantha Fox, and it was Sharon Stone, and it was Demi Moore, and write songs about that kind of. I'm sitting here between,
Yeah.
so
No, you gotta kind of have to like do like a Bill and Ted adventure sort of moment in
yeah,
a
yeah,
way.
exactly. Bill and Ted is a perfect
Yeah.
kind of example.
Yeah, 100%. And the final question I wanted to ask you actually, I've interviewed so many, like I think I interviewed half the population of Sweden at this point, but like, but talking about
And
like,
it was the first time. It was the first time you said that you were in Sweden this summer, right? You are?
yep, yep, like
Yeah.
after I interviewed like the whole population before I actually visited. But
That's cool.
it was beautiful. It was everything I've ever wanted. But like
Great.
I've interviewed predominantly Swedish death metal bands and black metal bands, but also a fair share of rock bands. But I wanted, as somebody who now, as a band who I've seen in Sweden, again, that band at Rockfest was incredible. It was magical when I saw it. But for a lot of bands that I felt played there, like they would play a lot smaller clubs here in America. It almost seems like it's appreciated in Sweden a lot more. And when I would go to Pub Anchor or Geronimo's, that point
Yeah.
was like brought home even more. I just want to know, like, for the rock scene, for like the sort of '80s sort of sound that you have. It seems like Sweden really never let that go in the '80s, right?
No, that's true. There were, I think so. Even though, of course, it was a bit of a gap in the grunge times, the grunge era for some years. But I think bands like Europe, they've been on tour forever, and there's always new bands coming up playing that kind of 80s rock. So I think, yeah, you're right in that sense that it kind of never died in Sweden. That scene was always there, but for quite a few years it was such a small scene, but it still was a scene, as you said. Like Pub Anchor's been there for a long, long time, and they always had these band playing whatever they called Wigwam or the Crazy Licks or whatever they called. So yeah, that's true. We never really let go of that scene kind of thing.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, kind of like a little different in the genre, but I heard a story that Saxon played in New York City one time, and they played at a
Uh,
venue that maybe could hold 500 people, maybe a little bit less. But like, I
yeah,
heard that they played a festival in Sweden one time, and like it was to like 20,000 people or something like that.
yeah. Saxon is still there. I think they played quite a few times in Sweden. We did some festival with them this summer, and they are in Europe. They are headlines. They play for like 20,000 people.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's funny too because like a lot of times when I would like talk to people and I'd say, yeah, I listen to Swedish music, they immediately assume like, oh, you listen to At the Gates or The Haunted or and I love those bands. But like it almost seems like the Swedish music scene is very diverse. But like when people think of '80s like metal, a lot of people do think of like American bands like Motley Crue
yeah.
or Guns N' Roses. A lot of that was that sort of '80s scene that we like see in Los Angeles at that time. Was that also very present in Sweden as well?
Yeah, it was super present. That was the whole, the yeah, bands as you mentioned, Mötley, Van Halen, Bon Jovi, Kiss, of course. They were super present in Sweden at that time. That was I think these bands are all the American bands. It's only, as I remember, like maybe Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and Def Leppard, of course, who's British. But apart from that, it was all American bands. So they were super present at that time. It was, yeah, it was. They were huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In America, I've noticed that European metal is always put on a pedestal, whether it sounds like Nestor or it sounds like Behemoth. It's like it always seems like it's appreciated. But I heard that in Europe, like people, the way that we put European bands on a pedestal here, I heard in Europe they do the same for American bands.
yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And maybe it's the distance a little bit. It's like when someone from America, a band from America comes, it's like kind of appreciate that they're coming all the way to play in Sweden or whatever. So you kind of give them a lot of appreciation, I think, and that might go for America as well. If you come from Europe to play a couple of shows, that you kind of made the effort to come there. It's such a long way, so
Yeah, people scramble to get tickets for a European show because of the feeling that it's going to sell out more than what they would do for like an American band. With American
yeah,
bands, they'll be like, "Oh, I'll see them next time they come here." Even
yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
even in Slayer's farewell tour, people were saying, "Yeah, I'll catch Slayer when they come around again."
Yeah.
So, so before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's great to be able to talk with you again. And again, excellent performance at Band and Rock Fest.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
I was like singing to myself, "Call the police" for the rest of that trip because that was like the sound. That was the soundtrack to my entrance to Sweden.
Oh, but that's great. That's great.
Yep.
And thank you for having me. And I think, yeah, we as I said, we had an amazing summer, and we just getting ready to get in there again. And eventually, I know that we're coming to America, but we're doing this cruise, the Monsters of Rock cruise in April, I think.
Oh, sweet.
But as a part of that, I think we might do some shows in Miami before or after, I guess. So
Better take a trip to Florida. But but
should.
but please come to New York. We would love to have you here. I think
We would love to come to New York, and eventually we're going to go there. So it's just a matter of time, but we'll come there, I promise.
Yeah, there's a stage at St. Vitus or the Bowery Electric with your name on it. So, yeah.
Sounds great.
But thank you so much. Is there just anything else with Nestor that you would like to promote that's been
Now
announced?
we're having a new re-release of the album coming out on the 30th of September. There are three new songs on that album. One is actually a cover of Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance with Somebody," which I think turned out really cool. But yeah, I guess that's what we want to promote at the moment. So
Yeah.
that's
Band
it.
bands of your style also do covers the best. I want to point that out as well. There's
Yeah.
this like I guess it's maybe because of the vocal range that you're all capable of
And,
doing. You could pull off a Whitney Houston song, but like
well, yeah, maybe if you're doing that kind of hard rock, usually the singers are quite fit, and they can really sing. It's like, so that might be the reason.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, and it's no shade, I'm a diehard death metal fan. I'm wearing a death metal shirt right now. But like when they cover like, a Whitney Houston song or a Mariah
Yeah.
Carey song, I can't take it that seriously. Like
Uh,
to me it's almost kind of like a Weird Al Yankovic sort of cover in a way. I've always said it's Angry Al instead of Weird Al.
yeah,
So, but but
yeah,
when
that's a different thing. Yeah.
yeah, but when you guys cover, I don't care if you're covering Whitney Houston or you're covering, Def Leppard or you're covering Cannibal Corpse. There's just something about the style that just makes it so. I guess it's because you guys make it very epic. There's something about that vocal range combined with the electric guitars and the synthesizers and
Uh,
the rhythm that kind of make it more elevated, I would say.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Do a Mariah Carey cover next.
We will do that.
Just don't do that Christmas song. But thank you.
No, no, definitely not. No, with Houston was a great match, I think, because she's 80s and she's a female. It's always try if you're a female and try to sing with Houston, you always get compared to her. I think as I'm a guy singing her song, hopefully people won't say like, yeah, you don't sing it as well as Whitney Houston. So it was a little bit like that, but no, it turned out fine, I think.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here.
Thank you, man.
Everybody, we are here with Nestor. Check out the re-release of Kids in a Ghost Town out September 30th. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.